Thank you very much for this kind invitation and this great gesture. This morning I was just recalling that 40 years ago, all of us and many more came to Bangalore to write the entrance examination for joining IIM Bangalore. The person who conducted that was Professor Patki. When we joined here, he called a few of us on a Sunday and took us to the National College and gave us audition tests. Then we knew he's a theater personality. And I should say probably he is one of the youngest members of our fraternity. And we enjoyed the affection from all faculty members, 55 students and equal number of faculty members. They competed with each other in patronizing us, in molding us, taking us to their homes and talking about various things, coming to our hostel and discussing things with us. And probably that made all of us fit to occupy certain positions and face the challenges. And I'm very happy to say there are a few distinguished alumnus, Mr. Sahid, Balakrishnan, Abhishek Mukherjee is not with us in this group at the moment. We all were molded by a great group of faculty members. So let me thank all of them, Professor Ramaswamy, Professor MNB Nair, Professor Subramaniam. We can go on making the list of those people. And we were all like members of their family. I was told that tomorrow you are starting a very major phase of your career to take decisions on what you need to do for you, for your family, and for the country. It's a very important decision point. Two things would be helping you probably, looking at these stars who are sitting here. And they too made that decision in the year 1976. We had a constraint at that time because this institute was at that time created with the assumption that the public sector in India needs professional managers. And we were all in the first batch engineers, and we were all wedded to becoming managers in private sector government institutions. And we were also taught in those days, apart from economics, sociology, Indian society, how to understand the Indian society and contribute to the development of the society at large. Why did I go back to ISRO? Why did I get into science, technology, research and development? What were the drivers of those decisions? What were the major milestones or decisions in the entire career path? I just want to tell you that that decision that I made in the year 1976 makes me stand today in front of you. In the year 1970, when I passed out of the engineering college, and I was for a few months a jobless engineer, and I got for the same day two calls, one to join the Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, Tumba, go for the interview, and the other one was to go for a test in IBM, a multinational at that time, giving 4-figure salary. And what ISRO would have given me was just 50% of it. As a fresh engineer, I had this doubt and I asked my professor who told me, who knew me very well, he told me that you go to Tumba. They have an SLV3 project. That was the first career choice for me. And even recently, he was telling with a lot of pride that that decision was the right decision. When I came here, I came as an engineer from ISRO sent on study leave. So when we had this campus recruitment system at that time, but only to public sector and government, I was also asked to put in my biodata and choices. I did not offer myself for the campus recruitment. All these people will vouch for it. Then there was a question, why don't you get a letter from us? We will request ISRO to place you in the proper place after this training. And I told there are people who have a lot of concern about me in Tumba, and they will take care of me. The basic reason was the value system. Because in those days, it was not as per rule to give study leave for an engineer, a design engineer, to go for a course in management. But 3 people at the top of that organization at that time, they decided, yes, we need to send this person. So I did not want to cheat them. That was my value system. So I went back. The second point was, ISRO the right organization for an MBA to work with? Yes, for 2 reasons. If you look at the management techniques that have been developed in project management, many of the techniques that we use in operational research, and if you look at the origin, we can trace it back to the complex space program. How to manage a complex space program. The Polaris missile program itself is a case in point. So there is a lot of challenge for a management professional in the field of space science and technology on one side. Our founder, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, was one person to realize this. And in the late 60s, not only he had at that time the ATIRA, the Ahmedabad Textile Research Institute, and the IIMA setup. He also recruited several bright young people from IIM, Ahmedabad, and Calcutta to join the space program. It was for them to find out a niche for themselves. Many could not, and many did. I happened to be one of those who found a niche in that program. So it was challenging. We were not doing research and development per se, but we were in facilitating the research and development activities. We were into the project management of complex projects. And in that process, what you call as the domain knowledge, we had to acquire. And when you deal with space science and technology, the domain is quite wide. And if you are having learnability, the urge to learn, then you can go up, you can widen your horizons and become something above others. This is what I did in that period actually. From avionics, I tried to understand the entire space program in a totality that made me become a director just 10 years after I left this institute. But complacence is not the answer. I tried to move out of that and get into several areas. Remote sensing was one such area where I got into for the application. Ocean, there is a new dimension for me to be with the meteorologist, climate scientist, ocean scientist, and still be someone in that area. Came back to, again, remote sensing. National Remote Sensing Agency was headed by me for some time. Got into launch vehicle again back after 27 years. It was a challenge for me, going back to that place. And during that 2 years, we had 5 successful launches, including the Chandrayaan launch that took place. That brought me back to the stream of IIM, and thanks to Srinivasan for informing IIMB on that day that the person who was being hugged by the chairman is an alumna of this institute. Thank you, Srinivasan. And your director, Pankaj Chandra, who realized that the IIM graduates have also a social responsibility. And somehow our equation, our chemistry matched. And I had several opportunities to come here, including the convocation and give lectures in this place. So that is one aspect of it. So there is a place for a professional manager in space science and technology. If you look at the growth of any individual in any organization, you start as an engineer. or a scientist, or a person at the smaller level as a specialist. You become a manager, you become a leader, you become developer of leaders. That is how you develop. A lot of faculties you have to gain at that time. And one book which I read, this is Change Management Excellence, published by Kogan. Author is Sarah. She talks about a pendulum, a balanced pendulum of 4 areas. One, of course, is the domain knowledge, as we call it. The business quotient, as she talks about. The second one is the people skill, as we call the emotional quotient. How do you get people to come and work with you and take them along? How you perform in a group, the interpersonal qualities. The next one she calls the political skill. You may have ideas, you may have people, but how do you get it done? Actually? How do you get the resources? How do you get the necessary approvals? How do you muster the system to work with you? The last one is the spiritual quotient. It's not spirituality, it is spiritual quotient. The values, the beliefs that drive you, the importance you give for honesty, integrity, getting trust of others in the organization and outside. What you call as the corporate policy, the ethics being the prime in that. If you deal with certain organizations in the country today, even in private sector, I should say, nobody will mistake you because they have written in the quotation itself in the last paragraph what is their code of conduct. That is the ethics. And finally, as you grow up and up, it is that spiritual quotient, SQ, that makes all the difference for a choice. All others can be acquired, contracted out, you can get specialists, but this is something inside you, you have to build up, and that will help you. And as you experience more and more difficulties, which are part of the game, then you will see you yourself becoming hardened, strengthened in this area. Your inner space will get more and more strength, and you can face more and more difficult situations. And this is something to do with what we are going to talk about later as learning from the failures that will harden you. Whenever there is a failure, and failures are bound to happen in a complex space mission, the leader takes the responsibility. Many times people say, fits the responsibility. It is normal in any organization. But in ISRO, the responsibility is taken by the chairman, none above him, none below him. This is the practice always. So we face everyone alone saying that we are responsible. That is, the chairman is responsible. And they do their job. But when things are successful, we stay back and bring the doers in the front. You would have seen this many times. Dr. Kalam talks about it. When SLV-3, the first flight was a failure, Professor Dhawan faced the music. But when the second flight was successful, he told, here is Kalam, you ask him. That is the difference.